Welcome to the Scottish Borders for the second round of the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series. This is the Border Counties Rally, the Brick and Steel Border Counties Rally, and we are in Stage 2, Hindley, waiting for our cruise into this second stage of today, the first cruise into Stage 1, and we've got a Marshall's radio quite close to us, so we can hear that there is already a couple of retirements. Andrew Fox, Jamie Lee Fox in the BMW, registered for BTRDA points, stopped in the first stage by the sounds of things on the Marshall's radio. We will keep you updated throughout the day, both runs of this Hindley stage on Special Stage and on Motorsport UK TV for the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series, Stages 2 and 6. So plenty of live rally action for your Saturday. Just after 12 o'clock we'll be live for, sorry, not Stage 6, Stage 4, isn't it? Here on the Border Counties Rally. I'm Paul Woodford. It's good to have you with us. 5 stages today, 43.5 miles, making up the second round of the championship. And it feels a long time since we were here, either at the Border Counties Rally or indeed in the BTRDA Gravel Series. Last time, of course, the Malcolm Wilson Rally was a good month or so behind us now. And we've got a big gap for the next one as well. 12th of July, the Nicky Grist stage. Is delighted to say that that's running. That gap was already in the itinerary. The last gap, not so, given the unfortunate cancellation of Rally North Wales due to the now well-documented issues in the Welsh forests. Pleased to say that things are getting back on track, and thanks to some hard work and some wrangling from Motorsport UK and various hard-working championship and rally organisers, we do have those Welsh stages starting to come back to our schedules, not least the Nicky Grist stages. So delighted to hear that. Today is all about fighters. Fighters here in the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series, where Matthew Hurst and Declan Deer lead the way after maximum points on the opening round in their Skoda Fabia. Fighters, as I mentioned, who are fighting to keep those Welsh stages for us this season. And a good friend of mine, and no doubt a number of you watching today as well, Steve Johnson, who unfortunately is back in hospital. Steve, our thoughts are with you, and we hope you can tune in and enjoy some live rally coverage. And all the best to you and your family as you continue to fight. So, our crews are into the first stage of the day then, the Walshup stage. If you've seen the Roger Robert Clark rally coverage, and indeed our previous coverage of the Border Counties Rally, you'll know that A, it's normally raining here. It's definitely not raining today. Glorious blue skies and nice little bit of wind to take the dust away. But I tell you what, it is hellish dusty in here. I brought my mini road rally car in, and the unfortunate thing about having a few panels missing on the inside, shall we say, is that the dust gets in, and there's a swirl of dust inside and outside of the car driving into this stage earlier. But it is a fast stage. If you've seen our coverage of this stage, or you've seen any in-car, you will have seen the in-car from the opposite direction, in most places going uphill, and quite a fast stage uphill. But just imagine what it's like downhill in this direction. We couldn't actually find any in-car from this direction from the last time the stage was run in this direction. It has been run in this direction previously, but it is mighty fast. It is mighty committed as well. Some cambers on those corners in the first part of this stage that you really don't want to get caught out on, or you don't want to be half committed to, because you are in it once you get into the corners in here. We've got a lovely section of stage for you here, starting with the square right, which you can see at the top of your view. And before that, it is absolutely flat out. I was just watching some in-car from David Henson and Chris Lees, and it was 114 miles per hour in a number of places in their Rally 2 car. So expect the guys, and that was down uphill as well, so expect the guys to be flat out in 6th gear through here for this second stage of the day. There will be a lot of dust, but unlike the Carlisle stages, if you tuned in with Phil Bramhill in the team, where quite frankly it looked horrific, didn't it, for those stood stage side. I'm not sure it was any better in the cars either. We shouldn't have too much hanging dust, at least through this first run of the stage. The second run at 12:30 this afternoon for stage 4. Second run through Hindley might be slightly different with the location we've got planned for you, but the wind at the moment is doing the job we need it to, so we should be able to see plenty of the action. As usual, here in the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series, we are running in reverse seeded order for the two-wheel drive and historic field. And then we will be running in the correct seeded order as per your entry list for the main four-wheel drive field. And I can hear the first car approaching, which should be the MG3 of a couple of media guys, fellow media personality, Alistair Beck behind the wheel, Luke Barry co-driving for him. Alistair's first ever rally. His old man did the Scottish rally back in the 80s, I believe, as a one-off, and a bit like me, Luke and Alistair having a one-off outing, a busman's holiday, shall we call it. I've got one of those coming up in a micro kit car. We'll talk about that more later, but here we go then. Nice and committed through there for Alistair, who would normally be, if it indeed had been a round of the Scottish Rally Championship, would have ordinarily been out here commentating. Great looking cars, the MG3s. And the MG3 Rally Trophy just seemed to be enjoying a bit more popularity recently. Sound good as well, don't they? Lovely bit of variety for you on today's second round of the championship as well. We have some great soundtracks to go along with it as well. Thumping British Leyland V8. Actually a Buick derived V8, wasn't it, of the SD1 Rover. The Tony Pond replica of Chris Hopkins that we'll see shortly, but that is Peter Johnson, Helen Harkness. Neither of the crews through so far. Competed here on the Border Counties Rally last year, so no benchmarks as far as position go. I can give you a bit of an update on times through the first stage, and you can keep an eye on it yourself at btrda8rallyresults.co.uk. If you are just tuning in, welcome to round 2 of the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series. It is the Brick and Steel Border Counties Rally. I'm Paul Woodford, and we are live through the second stage, Hindley, and through the fourth stage of the day as well, coming your way at around 12:30 this afternoon. So we're back to live rally action after what feels like a long time out of the seat. The Manx, of course, the last one for us, and up next in a couple of weeks it'll be the Border Competitions Jim Clark Rally. The next round of the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. Can't wait for that. Just as Nigel Worswick just pointed out, and sat here on the hillside in Scotland, topping up my tan, ready for Rally Barbados. Although I suspect it will be a fair bit better after that. Ian Hurd, Jack Amos, in that beautiful ermine white Mark 1 Escort. In the HB class, the classes we will be quoting today from the new Motorsport UK class structure, replacing the old structure that you will remember here in the BTRDA if you've been tuning into our coverage over the last 16 years. Seems strange to say we've been doing it that long. It is all change. I suppose the biggest change as far as the actual structure is concerned is probably in the Fuchs Lubricants Bronze Star, and we'll see some of those competitors very shortly, because we have Class G, which covers all of the competitors in the 1400s now. Now there's Darren Grimston and Jamie Bew in the MG3, a bit like the one we saw of Alistair Beck and Luke Barry to start proceedings earlier, which does concern me because Chris Hopkins and Colin Watson in their Tony Pond replica Rover SD1, that 3.5 litre thumping V8 British rally icon, is in between that MG3 and the historic Escort we saw before it on the entry list. I so hope we get to see that Rover on the stages today. We missed it last time out because, well, I mean, even in the heyday, British Leyland, well, those cars were a little bit temperamental, and as Chris gets to grips with the SD1. It has given him a few reliability issues, which is why we haven't actually seen it on the stage yet. I did see it when it was brand new at the Motorist, one of my rally days there, and it just sounded incredible, and I really want to see it and hear it singing through the forest for you here this morning in the borders of Scotland. And there we go. What a sight that is. That is just a glorious sight to behold. Shades of Tony Pond, and almost in that computer vision livery as well. Doesn't that sound glorious? The howl of a Rover V8. I'm delighted we've got to see Chris Hopkins and Colin Watson through this second stage of the day, the first live stage for us. I'm happy now. I've seen the SD1 in action. Well done, Chris. You got it here. Ashley Morris, Matt Baddeley up next. They come here third in Class F in the 1600 Fiesta. The Malcolm Wilson Rally last time out was Ashley's first event on gravel since 2022, and it was Matt's first ever rally on gravel as well. Incidentally, they are 13th in the Silver Star coming into this second round, and here with the championship campaign on their mind. Didn't go quite so well at the opening round, but they'll be hoping for a bit more luck in the dust here at round 2. Certainly wasn't dusty at round 1, was it? The great bit about the location we've got for you here is, I don't know if you can hear, you probably can't actually hear. We can hear the cars for miles. It reminds me of being a kid. The only thing we're missing is the marshals' whistle through the forests. Ian Hildreth, Sarah Wetton in their Mark II. Local car to me from North Yorkshire. They took a top 10 in the H3, H4 class in the historics here on the Border Counties Rally in 2024. Breaking into the top 50 on the overall leaderboard as well. Lovely pair, and they have a lovely pair of escorts as well. They've got a really smart Mark I escort road car, which tends to follow them to car shows. We end up with that Mark II covered in mud, and the Mark I absolutely split, pristine, mint, parked up next to it, which is always a nice sight at the rally events that we run at the Motorist. Nice story for Rob Evett and Richard Wise then. I mean, I put an exclamation mark on my notes alongside the fact that he is third in the senior category of the Protyre AutoCAD BTRDA, because I'm never sure if that's a good thing or not, being in the senior category. Ask Kaz Jenkins, I suppose. But Rob is into his 70s, and Richard Wise told me in the build-up to this rally that Rob really wants to win a championship in his 70s. So he's gone back to Rally First, or what used to be Rally First, the RSB category for Rally First or Road Rally spec cars up to 1400. They were third in what was 1400C last year. And they come here sixth in the overall Fuchs Lubricants Bronze Star category for Class G cars, the up to 1400s. Another cracking bit of variety and another lovely soundtrack as well. Scary bit of stage this, especially with the pendulum of that engine towards the back of that Porsche Boxster for Ian Jemison and Dean Kellett. All 3.4 litres of it. Just quite cautious through the second stage, not wanting to put the car off. That pair have been rallying together since the Chevette days in the late 80s. Dean's also been on the notes with Ben Jemison, who we'll see shortly. Ian's son. But the band are back together for this year's Protyre AutoCAD BTRDA Rally Series, although that pair not registered for points. This pair, though, are Will Armitage, Jeremy Pole, third in Class E, 12th in the Silver Star standings, with points from round 1 on the board. Apologies, that was Giles Armitage, wasn't it? Right surname, wrong first name, wrong car as well. 8th in the Bronze Star. They didn't finish the Border Counties Rally last year, though. Giles and Josh Rhodes. They're in the RSA class, what used to be Rally First, up to 2 litre class. It was a wheel bearing on the 3rd stage that called game over for them on last year's Border Counties. They come here equal on Bronze Star points, with Chris Bush, Steve Black and Dave Brick having only scored 1 point for starting the rally at the first round. So a good day for some points, because none of the others are here today in the borders of Scotland. Paul Rawson, Mike Curry alongside. I know it's never too far into the broadcast when we start talking about Clan Crusaders, but Mike Curry has competed in, one of the few people to have competed quite prolifically in Clan Crusaders over the years. You may remember his yellow wide arch Clan, one of the lightweight RR Works spec cars. But we lost Dave Williamson a couple of days ago, former chairman of the Clan Owners Club, and the man who actually has current custody of LUP, the car that Andy Dawson took to second on the Manx Rally in 1972 behind Roger Clark. Very best wishes to Joan Williamson and the family. Dave was a stalwart of the Clan Crusader scene, and indeed the rally scene as well. Indeed rallied that car himself over the years. You may have seen him, so sad news coming into this weekend's Border Counties Rally. One of the first Skoda Fabies you'll see on today's entry list. By no means the most powerful or most technologically advanced, but a late entry. I'm not actually sure. Looking at the results sheet, who's driving car 98? If you've got your head in BTRDA rallyresults.co.uk, you can probably tell me. Oh, it's Stuart Ballantyne, isn't it? Do like the look of this Astra. Craig Simkis put a picture up from service earlier. Love a Mark III Astra. There's Colin Smith. Thomas Simkis in theirs. If you're just tuning in, we are about a third of the way from the end of, just under a third of the way from the end of this just under 7 mile stage through Hindley, a stage that you might know as Walshope East on the Roger Albert Clark Rally. Most latterly, and a stage which is most often run in the opposite direction, going uphill, where the cambers and the drops and all the other bits of jeopardy are a little bit kinder to you. Coming downhill, this is a fast, I mean it's fast uphill, but in this direction, this is a fast bit of stage. As David McLeod and Eamon Boyle in the 1600 Avenger get about as sideways as you want to get, coming into that square right after what is a pretty flat out bit of stage downhill. Tricky under braking into this little section we've got for you here. You can just see the wind's dropped a little bit, and as a result the dust is just hanging in the air a little bit longer than it was earlier, but we don't think that's going to cause too much of an issue for you guys watching at home. I'm sure we're going to get a little dustier than we were expecting, but that is part of the course. We're either getting wet or we're getting dusty, aren't we? Some of the Berwick Motor Club members who are doing stage setup down here are fencing contractors, and very rightly pointed out that when you do rallying, or indeed fencing contracting, if it's raining, the wind's heading in your face along with the rain. If it's sunny, that's behind you and on your back and on the back of your head and your ears. It's never where you want it to be. And if it's dusty, you just get covered. It doesn't matter what you're doing or where you are. We're up on a bit of a bank here, and we did think we'd be a little bit more protected from the dust. Wasn't to be, but that's not very good radio, is it? So Darren Kelter, Sam Kelter alongside, registered for points here in the BTRDA Rally Series, but no points on the board so far, joining us for the first time here at the second round, the Brick and Steel Border Counties Rally. First few times through then, fastest on the stage so far is Darren Grimston, who we saw through earlier in the MG3, going well actually. An 8:46 through this first stage. Expect the top cars at the head of the entry to be breaking into the sevens through here, I would have thought. There's Johnny Hepworth, Dave Boyes alongside. Peter Johnson, second fastest through here are the times we've got so far. In that 1600 Escort. Then it's Ian Head in the lovely Mark 1 bubble arched Escort we saw through from Alistair Beck, and Chris Hopkins in that glorious SD1 Rover. As a sight for sore eyes on a Saturday morning, isn't it? Doesn't matter where you are and what you're doing. Seeing an historic spec Chevette, especially in works livery like that one, through a rally stage is a fine thing indeed. Anthony Hansen, Brad Suaby in their Chevette HSR. 2.3 litre Blydenstein engine, singing nicely through this first stage as the dust just hangs in the air. As you go down the hill here towards the flying finish, the rocks get bigger. They've staged in remarkably good condition. And it looks freshly graded, especially the first part of the stage. But coming down here towards the flying finish, some of those rocks, both off and online, are very big. They're going to be swept out of the way by the time the front-running crews come through. It's probably the wrong way of doing it, isn't it, in a lot of ways, but just something for the crews to watch out for. There's no let-up in this stage. It is fast, frantic, with lots of twists and turns. The only real straight bit is the bit just before and just after the section we're watching in here. Oliver Phillips, Barry Young, another crew registered for Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series points, but without points on the board so far. One of the three cars that at the start this morning, Will Banks, a competitor here in the BTRDA Rally Series, sent me a picture of the Opel Adam you see there. Ben Cree's Corsa that we'll see next, and then the lovely Opel Manta of David Dobson, which are all in various evolutions of the Opel rally colours. That white, yellow, silver and black livery that is so synonymous with cars of this ilk. And here is the Corsa that I mentioned. Ben Cree, Bob Wiggins, again, no points on the board yet. Joining us for the first time here in the series this season for round 2. Going well in the Corsa. Both of those cars, the Adam and the Corsa, on for Class F points today, the up to 1600 two-wheel drive class. We'll keep an eye on those times and let you know how they get on. At the moment, 2 stages in. Do we have anything to report? Not really. Andy Davis and Tom Murphy joining us in the Silver Star category once again this season. There was talk of them sitting this year out because they're registered for the Roger Albert Clark Rally, and the car was undergoing a bit of a rebuild, that Sunbeam VXR. They missed the first round, true to their word, but here they are at round 2, perhaps not wanting to let their competitors have it all their own way this year. Nice to see something a little different, isn't it? I remember the excitement that Baz Jordan had. It's excitement tinged with humour, actually, because he was a bit bemused that James Grattan Smith and Tom Jordan were bringing a Nissan 350Z out, a 3.5 litre V6 rear-wheel drive sports car. Really a GT car, isn't it? Out on the gravel. Had a crash at the first round. And the Malcolm Wilson on the third stage of the day. And there is the famous self-steering Mitsubishi Starion. And I say self-steering. Phil Morton and Chris Dodds were certainly having a good go at steering that themselves, weren't they? The reason I say that is that's the Starion which Phil competed on the Roger Albert Clark Rally last time in 2023, and he famously said to me in the interview, it's a great car, but it kind of steers itself. It's got a mind of its own, which sounds like a bit of a handful to me. But his Datsun is mid-repair, so out comes the Starion. Not a bad consolation prize, is it? I sent a picture to producer Wayne earlier in the week and said, how's this for a consolation prize? Phil Morton can't bring his Datsun out, boo, but he can bring his Starion out, yay. That's what we like to see. Alistair Crawford, Greg Halfpenny there. They came second in the what used to be the B10 class on last year's Border Counties Rally. In that Escort, in the same class as the Corsa and the Opel Adam that we saw through earlier in Class F. Just getting our heads around these new class structures for 2025, which, by the way, I'm all for. They make a lot of sense. I mean, talking to Jonathan Jackson about the number of different points and class systems that we had going on in British Rally, and it was a nightmare for us telling the story. It must have been a nightmare for you guys watching at home as well. So, fair play. It's taken a lot of work to get here, but the new class structure, once we all get our heads around it, will make a lot of sense and help us to tell the story and follow it as well. And not only that, look back in years to come and be able to follow a narrative. Christina Robinson, Grum Wilcock, 10th in the what used to be the B13 class on last year's Border Counties Rally in the Subaru Legacy. Out this time in the raughty sounding Peugeot 208. Noisy on the overrun, aren't they, those Peugeots? We see them in the Stellantis Cup in the BRC. Very antisocial, but we do like a bit of anti-lag. Through the forests, and it echoes for miles here as well. In this open section where we are, we can hear the cars long before they come into view. We can certainly hear the howling micro kit car of Ed James. Kevin Lane alongside, coming here 6th in Class G at the moment in the 1400, 7th in the overall Bronze Star category. And he did the Woodpecker and the Nicky Grist last year, and has joined us for both of the first rounds of this season, which is great news. Smashing bloke as well, Ed, and he's raising money this season for Prostate Cancer UK, in memory of Derek Wilkins, who we lost recently, father to, well, he's no introduction in his own right, but father to Nick Wilkins, who you may know with the Mark I historic Golf that you often see on events like the Historic Rally Festival. But Ed raised a fair bit of money, I can't remember how much now, at the first round, which I was delighted to help support. I hope you did as well, if you could. Incidentally, I mentioned the Historic Rally Festival. It is back this year, and it's at the Bilth Wells Showground, the Royal Wells Showground, which is a fantastic location for it. If you can get along to that event, you are guaranteed to see some cars in action that you won't see on anything else, and they certainly know how to put on a show. The Historic Rally Festival guys. Martin Beach, Noel Murphy in their 205 GTI will be looking to avoid a repeat of the accident which saw them retire on stage 2 of last year's Brick and Steel Border Counties Rally, and certainly encroaching on that road time. Behind them, I was going to say, should be Chris Butcher and John Hawkins, but it's not. It's Riley Chester, Steve Davey alongside. Riley stepping up from the F1000 Junior Rally Championship, which you may have seen on our coverage, or alongside our coverage of the Protyre Circuit Rally Championship. Riley, one of the standout youngsters of the last generation, the last crop that are now moving up. All taking slightly different directions. Charlie Matthewson, we saw him win the opening round of the Mini Rally Challenge a couple of weeks ago at the SMC stages at Anglesey. Coverage of that is on the Special Stage Facebook and YouTube pages, and at specialstage.tv if you do want to catch up with the final round of the Circuit Rally Championship, and indeed the opening round of the Mini Rally Challenge, which by the way had over 30 cars, R50 and R53, normally aspirated and supercharged cars for the opening round. That says a lot about the effort that has gone in by the organisers. And there is Chris Butcher, John Hawkins alongside. No points on the board yet. Hasn't had the best of reliability. The Nissan Sunny F2 car, his Asphalt Challenger, is still awaiting gearbox. Don't know if he's even managed to source one yet. Such is the challenge when you're running these rare, historic Group A cars now. But there is the Corsa Super 1600 kit car that we've been looking forward to seeing out. No points on the board yet in the championship. Had a test of that Corsa ahead of this year's BTRDA rally campaign. And we are also, as I say, awaiting his return to the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship in that works replica Nissan Sunny, which he pedals so well. Dave Forrest, Jamie Forrest alongside. That's Strasser Porsche Mark II. Jamie put a picture of the car outside the start in Jedburgh earlier. Lovely picturesque place to start and finish a rally. If you do fancy getting to the finish in Jedburgh, it's at Clelands, I believe. I think the cars come through Jedburgh and then head to Clelands in Galashiels, from what I gathered from the various discussions online. But that will be around 4 o'clock. You start to see the cars coming through into the finish at Jedburgh, and as I say, a very picturesque location and a lovely place, particularly in the sunshine, to get yourself a cold beer and watch some rally cars come into town. Why not? We're starting to get the times for the leading cars through the first stage. I'll give you a rundown of those in a short while, but there's David Dobson and Brian Hodgson, who come here 14th on the Silver Star leaderboard, looking for some points from this second round. A return to the BTRDA for David, and a return for that Manta, which we are delighted to see, and which we last saw in 2020. Before that, it was a full season for the Manta and for David in 2019. Had a strong start to the season, non-championship wise, on the Raponian, 4th in class, but Malcolm Wilson didn't exactly go to plan. So Matthew Hurst, Declan Deere lead the way, from what I can see, through the first stage in the Skoda Fabia R5. And that is a very committed Robbie Wood. Stephen Brown alongside. They came 7th. And B13 in a very different car and a very different class in 2024, 26th overall. In fact, this rally last year was Robbie's first ever rally in an Evo 9. Imagine doing your first rally on the Evo 9 on stages like these as well. Switched to an MG3 for Cadwell and Speyside recently. I saw him at Cadwell, of course. And now jumping into that Peugeot 208, which, by the way, is down on the entry list as an MGZR. So if you're as confused about that as I am, I can indeed confirm that he's not an MGZR. But lots of changes of car already in such a short space of time in his rally career so far. So at the moment, 5 seconds is the gap between Matthew Hurst and Declan Deere, who, I remind you, come here leading the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series points after a maximum score on the Malcolm Wilson Rally. From reigning champions and 3-time champions indeed, Elliot Payne, Patrick Walsh in second place. Daniel Sigurdsson and Asta Sigurdóttir, the Icelandic pair, in the Skoda, just bookending that Fiesta Rally 2. 17 seconds behind them. And that's a car that we're starting to see some reliability from now. I don't want to give him commentator's curse, of course, but Dale Glover, David Smalley in that Alpha Sud have struggled so far. Familiar on reliability in 2024, but they come here 4th of our Fuchs Lubricants Bronze Star Challengers, which is certainly a better start to the championship than they've enjoyed previously, if indeed enjoyed is the word when we're talking about unreliability. But it's a fabulous car, that little 1400 Alpha Sud TI. I drove a road-going version of the CI Alpha Sud a little while ago. That was a 1.5 litre version. And it's twin carbs. What a cracking little car with a lovely little bark to it as well. Tom Constantine, Tony Walker then we talked about MG3s. And they've stepped up from their MG3 into that Adam R2 for this year. Good start to the season for them. It wasn't the best of rallies here on the Border Counties last year in the MG3, though. It was an accident on stage 2, which cut their rally short. They'll be looking to avoid that as they look to get more points on the board. They come here 5th in the Silver Star standings for the two-wheel drive runners, 2nd in the R2 class, and 7th of the juniors. The junior category here in the BTRDA stronger than ever in 2025. We've already seen a few of our junior crews through. We've got a few more to go yet. Natalie Robinson with the ever-entertaining Sam Collis alongside. Interesting that those Peugeot 208s are becoming so popular outside of the Stellantis Cup, which is always the measure of a very good one-make rally series, isn't it, when the cars start to spread their wings and become competitive outside of rank. You look back to the Ford KAs, for example, did the same thing. I suppose the archetypal one would be the Peugeot 205, but then the Nissan Micras as well, which enjoyed their first round on the Dixie's Rally Challenge last weekend. Plenty of those have seen giant killing performances over the years. We expect to see one of those as well from Dylan Fowler Bishop. And you'll see from him very soon our Bronze Star championship leader coming into this second round in the blue and yellow Micra challenge car, as it now is with the return of the TCS Celtic Micra Challenge. Nick Taylor and Paul Gribben. You can see the dust hanging in the air on the lower section of this stage where we're watching. And as you go through these trees there towards the flying finish, there's a hairpin left. And even with the safety delegate and the course cars going through before the field this morning, there just really was hanging in the trees without the aid of the wind, which we've got up here on this open section. To remind you, this stage hasn't been running this direction for as long as we can remember. And it is very scary and very committed, particularly when you're driving it like Scott Peacock there. Mari Riddick alongside in the Mark II. Nicely done. You're going to see some blistering pace through here as we get further towards the front end of the leaderboard and indeed the championships. Both here in the Fuchs Lubricants Bronze Star and Silver Star, but also as we head towards the main field, which, to remind you, sees Matthew Hurst and Declan Deere leading the way by 5 seconds after the opening stage, that Warshope stage. Warshope East is the name that would normally be given to this stage, running the opposite direction. Part of the same forest complex here in the borders of Scotland. Stayed in Howick last night, not stayed there before. It was a lovely little town. There's a man who needs very little introduction, and alongside him, well, more of the same. Steve Corky Ward, John Millington alongside. They come here 4th in the Historic Cup, 6th in the overall Silver Star category. And indeed, they took 3rd in the Historic Cup and 6th in the Silver Star on the Brick and Steel Border Counties Rally in 2024. You may remember it was Kevin Barden in with Steve on the Border Counties last year. Phil Sandham usually inside that car, but with the very sad but bittersweet retirement of Mike Reed, John Millington is now freed up and is inside that car with Steve Ward. And what a formidable pairing that is. Barry Lindsay, Caroline Lodge. Talking of formidable pairs, they won Class B10, what was B10, now Class F, in that 206 XSI on last year's Border Counties Rally. Just outside the top 20 overall as well. Going well here as well. Just, you could see the drivers who are used to carrying the speed and just left foot braking through these faster sections of stage, just carrying the speed and just dancing the car around. Going back to Mike Reed, best wishes to Mike, who does retire after a career spanning 50 years. And not only a formidable and seasoned competitor over the years, but also a fantastic bloke. And, you know, he retires at the top of his game still in his, what is he, in his 70s? As fast, not too far off the pace of some of his younger years. Retires with his health and will enjoy the sport from the sidelines. But never say never. I'm not sure you can ever fully retire from this wonderful sport. Nick Kitching, Steve Pugh alongside. Nick had Robbie Sanford, the Motorsport UK Academy co-driver, in with him for the Border Counties last year in their ex-Terry Brown car. Steve Pugh alongside this season in the car which ironically sports a very similar registration to the, or a consecutive registration to the Mark II that Steve's dad had when he was a kid. Love that story. They were 6th in the H3, H4 category, now HB on last year's Border Counties in that early 70s RS 1800. And there is that absolutely blistering Micro Challenge car. Oh, I tell you what, I don't know how Dylan Fowler-Bishop got that micro stopped for the right-hander, sweeping right-hander, as the car goes out of sight in the dust. That's what I mentioned about the more experienced and confident competitors being able to dance the car around and carry the speed. And that is why, the ability to do that is why we see Dylan Fowler-Bishop and Dan Evans coming here, leading the Bronze Star category, leading Class G for 1400 cars, and in a firm podium position in the junior category here in the Protyre AutoCare BTRDA Rally Series as well. They took 2 maximum Bronze Star finishes in 2024. A full campaign will definitely see them as title contenders this season. And so far they're going the right way about improving on that score of 2 maximums in 2024. Matthew Stroud, Josh Carr, styling it out. Just perhaps overcooking it a little bit on the brakes and just getting the car out of shape on this downhill section, and a slight panic stalling the car, but then managing to fire it back up with no issue whatsoever. Nicely done. They took a strong finish on last year's Border Counties as well. 3rd in the B11 class. we should be seeing our former Rally First champion very shortly. Lewis Hooper, Rhys Edwards, and our second place crew, the reigning champions of Bronze Star, Nigel and Kaz Jenkins. But there's John Rintle and Ross Hind in the escort for this year's Border Counties Rally. Number of local crews mixing ranks with our BTRDA rally crews here at the second round of the championship. Always a good benchmark. Pitching yourself against crews in a championship as competitive as any of the BTRDA series, actually, gravel or asphalt, because such is the pace here on both surfaces that you can return after a number of years away and be nowhere near the front of the field that you were fighting at when you were last here, and that is the way it goes. We see it so often. There is Lewis Hooper, Rhys Edwards. What was I saying about being able to move the car around? That Fiesta R2 just almost ditch hucking, Colin McRae style, wasn't it, coming into here? Just getting at all the angles, ready to get the power down, carrying the speed through this section. We'll get some times for you in a moment. Lewis Hooper, Rhys Edwards, though, showing why they come here second in the Silver Star, 15th overall in the overall Gold Star in the BTRDA standings, and second of the junior category crews as well. No stranger to a good result in the Silver Star, runner-up indeed last year. We didn't think Andy Davison, as I mentioned earlier, would be here to defend that title, but after a no-show at the first round, here he is. But Lewis Hooper is a real star of our sport, one of the young firecrackers who's come up from the junior category of Rally First and is now a force to be reckoned with in that Fiesta R2, as are those two. Second in the Bronze Star, and indeed in the 1400 Class G here in the BTRDA, having taken the title for the second time running last season. Looking to join Elliot Payne and Matthew Robinson as three-time category champions here in the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series. Be a heck of an achievement if they can do it. If I asked them now, I know full well they'd tell me that they weren't concentrating on that, but I wouldn't believe a word of it. They've got to say that. They're concentrating on the rallies at the minute, and in second place in the Bronze Star after that opening round. Nigel always very hard on himself, to be fair, and he won't be very happy with that, but you wouldn't mind being a few seconds behind either of that pair, would you? Dylan Fowler-Bishop or Nigel Jenkins. Do love the revised, a very fresh looking livery. An interesting take on the works colour scheme for Ben Jemison and Dave Jackson in the Chevette HSR, the second of the Chevettes we've seen through this second stage today. What a treat to have cars like that still running and still winning categories and classes here in British rallying. Didn't finish here in 2024. The engine overheated on the second stage, so we'll be looking to get more points on the board and get through this rally, ready to head to the Nicky Grist at the beginning of July in a strong position. At the moment, just scraping into the top 10 of the Silver Star standings with a 6th place in the Historic Cup at the moment, Ben Jemison. Last few two-wheel drive cars through here, including the leaders of the Silver Star, a pair who I watched in a Rally 2 Fiesta doing this stage last year in the opposite direction. You come here in a Mark II Escort this time and have done very impressive things with that switch. David Henderson and Will Atkins, we'll see from them shortly, but some iconic cars and indeed iconic drivers to come before that. That's some lovely angles there for Paul Thompson and Josh Davison. They were second of the H3, H4 historic crews, what's now the HB class in 2024 here on the Border Counties Rally. Dylan Fowler-Bishop then. Dan Evans putting in the fastest time so far through this second stage, the first running of the Hindley stage. Just under 7 miles of absolutely flat out twists and turns and very scary camber downhill, which requires the utmost commitment. A 7:29 from them through this second stage of the day. I predicted our top guys in the four-wheel drive cars would be getting close into the 7, sorry, didn't I? But it is indeed our Bronze Star category leaders at the moment, leading the way with a 7:29 through this second stage. Steve Bannister, Callum Atkinson, there is one of the iconic drivers that I mentioned. I put a photo up on Facebook and Instagram coming into this rally of Banner being led into Jedburgh with a pipe band in front of the car. It was quite the sight. That must have been, what, 3 years ago now, when Phil Bramhill and I did the Border Counties with Jamie Ganley, I think, Wayne. And we were there and we did a live finish piece in the town with Louise Aitken-Walker giving out the trophies. And Charlie Payne was there as well, watching a very young Elliot Payne getting ready to win his first Gold Start title. And indeed, Charlie sat that one out and gave Elliot his car. Charlie's had some bad health in the meantime, but I hear he is on the mend, and that's good to hear. Best wishes to you, Charlie, former BTRDA champion in 2016 with Carl Williamson, of course, if you're watching this. Rob Wright, Mark Fisher, talking of former champions, 2022 Silver Star champions. They came second in 2023, didn't register for last year, but here they are back with a vengeance as well in that Mark II. They come here. Equal 14th in the Silver Star standings after a bit of a rough start to their campaign at the Malcolm Wilson Rally, their local event. Third in Class C in that 2.5 litre Mark II. But they won their class, the B12 class, as it was then, this Class C in this year's currency on last year's Border Counties Rally. So another performance like that will be just what the doctor ordered. Really chuffed that Andy Davidson and Tom Murphy have joined us back here at the second round of the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series. I'm not entirely sure they are registered for points, though, which could suggest that it is a one-off outing for them. It's an RAC rally year, this one. The Roger Robert Clark now running every 2 years, and we're all getting very excited, aren't we, for November? But some crews do then split their normal campaigns in those RAC years. I suspect Andy and Tom are one such crew. And look at this, head of the two-wheel drive field full of former champions, former Silver Star champions we've seen through, reigning Bronze Star champions. And there is former British Historic Rally Championship winning pair, Ben Friend and Cliff Simmons in the Mark II, in the all-glass liveried car. Second on the road. Phil Morton leads the way after 2 stages in Class C then, in that Mitsubishi Starion, which I really enjoyed seeing through here. I hope you did as well. James Granton-Smith equally enjoyed seeing the 350Z and hearing it as well, more to the point. Second in that class. As things stand, only 7 seconds, so that's a gap to watch. That could be quite exciting as we go through today. Very unknown quantity. James in that 350Z, and also Phil, I suppose, in the Starion, because we've seen him on the RAC, but it's a very different kettle of fish, that rally. And it replaces the Datsun, which has been doing a lot of work recently for Phil Ian Jemison third in that class. In Class D, Robbie Wood leads the way from Riley Chester, Natalie Robinson, Christina Robinson in a bit of a battle of their own behind. I told you Barry Lindsay was fast through there. It was an 8:07 through this second stage for Barry in the Peugeot 206. Puts him 43 seconds in the lead of Class F from Ben Cree in the Corsa, and Oliver Phillips in the Opel Adam for Class F. Still waiting for the time through from Nigel and Kaz Jenkins, but at the moment Dylan Fowler-Bishop leads the way with the times for the second stage here. As you see, the pair who have really impressed us so far in that Mark II. You just look back to their Anglo-Caledonian victory last season to know how well they've gone since jumping into that Mark II. Class wins all over the place, and it won't be long before we see that car getting overall wins, just like David achieved in his Rally 2 Fiesta. To give you an idea, actually, David comes here leading the Silver Star, leading the Historic Cup, and 11th in the Gold Star category, equal with James Giddings and Daniel Hyans. When you have Mark IIs fighting with, in old money, B13 cars, but you know what I mean, and indeed B14 cars, you know that that is a fast Mark II. Just waiting for the time from our Bronze Star category reigning champions. Nothing through yet. Matthew Stroud currently with the fastest time through this second stage in the Mark II with Josh Carr alongside. And our leading four-wheel drive crews in correct seeded order, Elliot Payne with number 1 on the door, having taken victory overall on last year's Border Counties Rally. Slings that hooch liveried Rally 2 Fiesta towards us here in the second stage of the day, Hindley. If you are just tuning in, welcome to Special Stage. If you're watching on Motorsport UK TV, hello to you, wherever you're watching from today on specialstage.tv, on Facebook, on YouTube. We're delighted to have you on board for the Protyre AutoCare BTRDA Rally Series. This is round 2. It's the Brick and Steel Border Counties Rally. It feels an awful long time since we were last in the forest for the Malcolm Wilson Rally to open the season. Indeed, it was a long time, a longer than planned break enforced because of the struggle with the Welsh Forest, which I'm pleased to say, despite the cancellation of some early events, including Rally North Wales, is back on track. And we will be at the Nicky Grist stages next time out. Route 60 joining the ranks of the rally as well for the first time in a number of years, which we're excited about. That'll be fast with our current crop of drivers. That comes your way on the 12th of July. We are just awaiting our leading four-wheel drive crews into this second stage of the day, just under 7 miles long. Normally run in the opposite direction. You'll know it as Worship East, particularly when run either here on the Border Counties Rally, but also in the Roger Albert Clark Rally. But this is being run today in a downhill direction, and it is fast. I mean, we've got a 7:29 from Dylan Fowler-Bishop in the Bronze Star category, leading Micro Challenge car. What are we going to get from our top crews through? I wonder. Lewis Hooper just dropping in as the fastest time through the stage at the moment, a 7:19 in the Fiesta R2. So the time I was looking for through here is Nigel Kaz Jenkins. They were 2 seconds slower, actually, than their challengers here in the championship. And actually, although that will be frustrating for Nigel, you may have, if you joined us at the BTRDA awards ceremony, you will know from Nigel's acceptance speech when he took that title, the Bronze Star category, for the second time, that he loves nothing more than a fight. Wow, so there is a fight as well. There we go. The hoosh livery almost looking like the Fiesta Rally 2 has its spotlights bolted to the front of the bonnet line, doesn't it? Another fantastic livery. And again, support from Steve Perez and Global Brands on that championship, reigning champions Rally 2 Fiesta. It's not actually the car that won the championship last time out. That's a brand new car for Elliot Payne from M Sport. Indeed, when Wayne went for the promo drive, for the prize drive for Callum Black for winning the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship at M Sport in the Rally 1 Puma, Elliot was sat waiting for a meeting with Malcolm, wasn't he? Looking like it was his first day at school. No doubt doing the deal for that new Rally 2 Fiesta. It looks good, but it's currently coming into the second stage 5 seconds behind this pair. Matthew Hurst, Declan Deere. They came second overall on last year's Border Counties Rally. They come here leading the championship with just 2 points at the head of the field after maximum points. First time out. Getting ever so tight on that sweeping, what is it, 3 right, coming down the hill here and digging up some of the bigger rocks that I mentioned earlier. That's risky. A third from the end of the stage here. Don't want to be picking a puncture up, particularly when you're 5 seconds in the lead. I don't want to curse anybody, of course. I mentioned how close it was looking in the Bronze Star. But actually, after the second stage, Dylan Fowler-Bishop, Dan Evans have a 55-second lead over our reigning champions, Nigel and Kaz Jenkins, who surely must have had a problem through the first stage. Only 2 seconds dropped through the second stage, so the time has been gained in that first stage of the day. The Walshup stage. Ed James in the Rally Nuts Micra Kit car in third place in the Bronze Star. At the moment, a fair old gap back, though. As you see, Daniel Sigurdsson, Asta Sigurdottir coming here third. In the rally, but coming here fourth in the Gold Star Championship standings. They ended 2024 just 1 point behind Liam Clark, who we're going to see very shortly in the Fiesta Rally 2. The title fight here in the Protyre Autocad BTRDA Rally Series, looking set to be one of the tightest we've had for years, right through the field. And we had a glimpse of what was to come last season, didn't we, in that regard? So Ben Friend took the fastest of the two-wheel drive times through this second stage with a 7 minutes 3 seconds. The top crews then going to be well into the 6 minutes mark on this dry, dusty May day in the borders of Scotland. Perfect conditions for a big push. Ben Friend had one of those, didn't he? David Henderson not far behind, 2 seconds slower through the stage. And then Paul Thompson behind him. Andy Davison, fourth fastest through this second stage of the day. You saw Scott Macbeth, Dan Forsyth through there. Their Gold Star campaign here in the BTRDA didn't start off the best at the Malcolm Wilson Rally, so they will be definitely wanting to avoid either way a repeat of what happened here at the Border Counties Rally in 2024 when they retired with no points on the board. Next crew on the road, we're doing a bit of a test in Kership, I understand, on the lead up to this weekend. I think it was yesterday, and it looked dry and dusty in there as well. Nope, it isn't the pair I was expecting. Michael Binney and Claire Moore was who I was talking about in the Fiesta R5. It is, in fact, our championship challenger. A very sideways one at that. So he just lost a bit of time through there, getting too sideways at the top of that downhill section and then having to gather it together on the brakes for the sweeping right-hander at the bottom. Liam Clark, Carl Williamson alongside. A lot of experience inside that car. Former Works co-driver, of course, alongside Jari Matti Latvala. And I can now say that very, very credibly that for at least, well, 3 miles of a stage, I was Carl's teammate at Cadwell Park recently. Didn't end well for me, but it ended well for Carl Williamson, who did the rally alongside debutant Ben Higgins, Mark Higgins' son, of course. And that was Liam Clark with Carl alongside. 5th in the junior category, 7th in the Gold Star, coming into this round. And they were 3rd overall on this rally last year. A 3rd overall finish would give them some nice points to go towards that campaign as well. Niall McCulloch, Martin Brady alongside, not registered for points, but just benchmarking themselves against our BTRDA competitors here in their Polo R5. Daniel Sigardus and Asta Sigurdottir swapping their Polo for a Fabia RS for this season. One of the new Fabia Evos, I believe, that one as well. Very tasty bit of kit. There was a bit of a debate after I posted a picture of Dane Skeet's S12B in Pretzel World Rally car from Rally Barbados earlier in the week about, I was about to say about how exciting the WRC cars from the early 2000s are compared to the Rally 2 cars, but you don't need a WRC car or a Rally 2 car to be exciting. And there's a man who constantly proves that point, Russ Thompson, Stephen Link. And to give you an idea, in what in old money was a B13, so Class B this year, Evo 9, Russ Thompson comes here leading the class, but he's second, equal second in the Gold Star with Elliot Payne, our 3-time category champion in the Gold Star and overall BTRDA champion as well. It shows you just how much Russ and Stephen push in that Evo. We saw overall rally victories from them in 2024. And they've still got a lot more to give. It's an uphill climb, bringing a Class B Evo 9 to the gunfight. And expecting to win the overall trophy. But you know what? Russ really wants it. And it would only take a bit of consistency, a few results to go his way and not other people's ways. And do you know what? He was leading the Gold Star at times in 2024. Never say never. There's Michael Binney, Claire Mole then. Wow, there's some experience in that car. Claire, one of my rally heroes, actually. I was just watching some in-car with her and Matt Anderson the other day, actually, that came up on a suggestion. It might be one of yours, actually, Wayne. Was it on yours? No, but it was some pictures that somebody shared of... what rally? Maybe the Pirelli rally that someone shared earlier in the week that showed Matt Sanderson and Claire Mole in the Proton Satria, which led me down a bit of a Super 1600 Formula 2 wormhole. I love those, by the way. Super 1600 Formula 2 wormholes. Try them, they're great. I tell you what, someone who's disappeared down one of those recently is Ryan Champion, who's got his work Super 1600 Puma back, having been beautifully restored. I saw it on Instagram last night. Very excited to see that. And I understand he will be doing some light use, as you would when it's taken so long and so much investment to restore that car, but we will see it in action, which I'm pleased to say. I want to see it up close as well, Ryan. We need to arrange that. Carl White, Anthony Nestor joining the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series in that Hyundai i20 for this season after his BRC campaign in 2024. Great to have Kyle here within the BTRDA ranks. Hasn't been the smoothest starts to the season. The Malcolm Wilson Rally, a baptism of fire for a number of our competitors. Kyle, one of those, comes here 14th in the Gold Star points as things stand. The next man on the road, though, knows these stages well. He also knows how to win a championship here in the BTRDA. And in that Hitachi liveried Fiesta Rally 2, it is former BTRDA Gold Star champion Stephen Pench. Michael Wilkinson alongside. They were 7th overall on last year's Border Counties Rally. Don't count them out of a good result here today. We've already seen David Henderson through and taking the second fastest of the two-wheel drive times after Ben Friend through this second stage of the day. Well, the man who used to sit in with Henderson is Chris Lees, and he's up next, co-driving for Alex Vassallo. Switching from the Citroën DS3 R5, which we saw him in most recently on the Anglo-Caledonian, into that Fiesta Rally 2, and it's a fantastic looking car as well. They come here 6th in the Gold Star standings. What I mentioned about this year being one of the closest yet. New challengers, new names that we're not used to seeing so high up in the Gold Star order of things. Always bodes well, doesn't it? First few of our times should be through. To remind you, the fastest two-wheel drive car through this second stage, this Hindley stage, just under 7 miles, was 7 minutes 3 from former British Historic Rally champion Ben Friend. It remains to be seen what our leading four-wheel drive crews will do time-wise. After stage 1, the overall top 5 was Matthew Hurst, 5 seconds ahead of three-time champion and reigning champ Elliot Payne. Then it was Carl White, Daniel Sigurdsson and Scott Macbeth, with Liam Clark just behind. And there's Alistair Ginley with Motorsport UK Academy co-driver Bonnie Papper alongside. Bonnie hopping into that Fiesta seat for the first time with Alistair. Plenty of experience here in the BTRDA in that co-driver seat. Bonnie joined us at the Malcolm Wilson Rally as a bit of a stage side pundit shortly before heading over to M Sport for the first of the Motorsport UK Academy field trip weekend, shall we call them, where they did a 12-car rally. I just had to laugh. I think it was Lucy Gutteridge who was navigating for Nicky Grist on the 12-car. Imagine navigating for Nicky Grist. That's quite a surreal moment for Lucy, wasn't it? I had to laugh at the little video that Nicky put up as well. He's such a character and has achieved so much in our sport. To be sat alongside him doing a road rally would be quite a thing. Especially with him driving. Does more driving than co-driving though these days, as we know. I love that livery on Robert Proudlock's Fiesta Rally 3. Daniel James alongside in the Class A car. Not registered for points, but it will be interesting to see how Robert gets on against our junior competitors in, I say, similar machinery. None of them have a Fiesta as new as that, a Rally 3 Fiesta, do they, in the BTRDA? But we've got, I reckon the R2s will give us a good comparison. By good, I mean interesting. Do just want to send our regards here at Special Stage to Steve Andrews and his lovely other half, Anuska, who Steve is in hospital at the moment. Some of you may have seen, and we wish you a speedy recovery, Steve. Hope you're getting on okay. Ian Joel, Mark Twynham in that glorious MRF liveried Escort Cosworth WRC. They came 9th overall on last year's Border Counties Rally. 9th overall. Let that sink in. Brilliant, that, isn't it? And Escort Cosworth still doing the business. But yeah, best wishes to Steve. It's quite some procedure he has had, including brain surgery. So a long road to recovery lies ahead. But he's one of the most passionate people you'll ever meet in this sport. And producer Wayne will agree, because he's seen, like I have, what Steve does behind the scenes. And we need you back out there doing it, Steve. Pat Naylor, Ian Lawrence, sideways as you like. Second in Class B in Old Money B13, equal on points with Callum Black, who's not here, so a good chance to steal some points in the overall Gold Star as well. 8th overall in that Gold Star title race at the moment for the former B13, or Production Cup champion as it was then. Pat Naylor, Ian Lawrence. second of our senior drivers as well in the senior category. I'm never sure if I'm saying something positive there when I'm talking about the senior category. I'm not sure I'd like to be considered a senior driver. I think we all think of ourselves as somewhere near the junior category still, don't we? At least in our heads. They came fourth in what was B13 last year on the Border Counties Rally, 11th overall and 6th in the Gold Star points. So this a rally which suits them well. If they can get to the finish, it could be a good haul of points towards that championship fight. But right now, they, and indeed no one else, have got the measure of the leading Class B pair, Russ Thompson and Stephen Link. But both leading Class B Evos on an absolute charge through this Hindley second stage of the day, weren't they? Sideways as anything. Both of them coming into here. Still no times, actually, for the four-wheel drive cars at BTRDA rallyresults.co.uk. David Henderson, Will Atkins then lead the Silver Star. After two stages, Dylan Fowler-Bishop leading the Bronze Star. And it's Lewis Hooper in charge when it comes to the R2 Rally Cup. David Henderson also taking the lead of the Historic Cup with that position so far. Ben Jemison down in 6th place. In second there. And there's John Bannister with Emma Clark alongside. They come here 6th in Class B. 35th on the overall Gold Star leaderboard. Not the best of starts for them at the Malcolm Wilson Rally, but they came 12th overall this time last year on the Border Counties. So, again, another crew who will be looking for a repeat of that to get themselves a good haul of points towards their campaign. And I'm delighted to see John joining us as well for a championship campaign. Hasn't joined us for a full championship crack in the past. We've seen him at selected rounds, though. But Emma representing the British Women Racing Drivers Club, and also pleased to be joining us here. She said ahead of the opening round she was excited to get going for their campaign. There's Daniel Hyans, Rob Fagg alongside in the Fiesta S2000 Turbo, one of the ATS motorsport cars, one of the first private teams to stick a turbo engine in an S2000 car, and they became very popular after that, didn't they? Neil Hyans, Dan's father, the production British champion in an Escort Cosworth in, I think it was 1994. Might be 93. But Dan comes here 11th in the Gold Star standings, equal with James Giddings and David Henderson as well. Only joined us for the Malcolm Wilson and the Track Rod, the two probably most local events to Dan, who's based in Goole at ATS in 2024, adding the Border Counties to the roster, which we're very pleased to see. And Dan, one of the guys heading out to Rally Barbados after this. There's John Crawford, Richard Wardle alongside in the Rally 2 Fiesta. Okay, we've started to get the first few four-wheel drive times through then. Matthew Hurst, Declan Deer extending their lead at the front of this rally. 11 seconds now ahead of our reigning champions, Elliot Payne and Patrick Walsh. Daniel Sigardus and Asta Sigardottir just hanging on there in third. 27 seconds behind those, so it's a rear view mirror they'll be looking at, metaphorically speaking, going into the next stage, because Carl White, Anthony Nestor are just 6 seconds behind them, and only 7 behind them, Scott Macbeth, Dan Forsyth, and then it gets close. Russ Thompson, Stephen Lincoln, the first of the Class B Evos, 1 second behind the Fabia R5 of Macbeth. David Henderson, Will Atkins, the leading two-wheel drive car at the moment, in 7th. Expect that to change as we get a few more scores on the board from the four-wheel drives coming through this second stage. Dylan Fowler-Bishop. Dan Evans at the moment showing in 8th, but again, that will change as well. Ian Baumgart, Richard Simmons there in the Impreza Pastas. The wind direction, I'm not pleased to tell you, has changed, and we are now getting a good mouthful of dust every time a car goes past, and we're going to feel like sand monsters after this, aren't we? Wayne's already got a bit of a sheen to him. The orange special stage logo on his black baseball cap starting to blend with the background. Not a good sign. I can feel my voice going as well with the amount of dust I'm inhaling. Lovely weather here. This is one of the rallies that we usually have absolutely tropical rain and thunderstorms on. I've never known a completely dry Border Counties in the last few years, but this year it is looking set to be hot and dusty all day long. Just checking my working out on something here. Yeah, that was Darren Martin, wasn't it? Alan, yeah. Dan Hurst alongside. In the Fiesta, a late entry, so slotting into the running order. There's Alan Dixon and Martin Forrest. Incidentally, currently 5th in Class B, behind John Bannister, Ian Joel, Pat Naylor and Russ Thompson in that order. But if I can just flick forward to the times from this stage, it was remind me, what was our fastest two-wheel drive time? 7:03, wasn't it? So Matthew Hurst with the fastest time through the second stage, doing a 6:14. That's blisteringly quick. 6 seconds ahead of Elliot Payne. Daniel Sigarson a further 10 seconds down the road. Scott Macbeth 2 behind Dan. A further 2 seconds back to Neil McCulloch. It's close in the overall top 10. Russ Thompson and Kyle White putting in an identical time of 6:39 through this second stage of the day. And Alex Vassallo joining them on that stage time as well. Testing Kirship for Michael Binney and Claire Mole, paying off a top 10 time through that stage for them. So Matthew Hurst leads the way from Elliot Payne and Daniel Sigarderson here in the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series after 2 stages. It's David Henderson leading the way in the Historic Cup and the Silver Star. And it is Dylan Fowler-Bishop absolutely flying in that TCS Celtic Micra Challenge car in the Bronze Star category. Problems for Colin Minton, and Jordan joins then. Jordan, who along with Alex Jenkins, Michael Jenkins' other half, did his bars test recently, so we expect to see him out on the stages at some point, which will be interesting. But they're not having a great day so far. Hazard warning lights on through this second stage and just crawling through in the Fiesta R5, the Ignition Motorsport team, who have done remarkably well, haven't they, in the BRC Teams Cup, if you've been following that. Great to see what they've been doing there, and getting David Higgins back out as well at the Carlisle stages. Fabulous work, guys. But here in the BTRDA, there's Steve Pawson and Liam Whiteley, who come here 18th on the Gold Star standings so far. Minimal points on the board from round one. They need some good points here at the second round, the Brick and Steel Border Counties Rally. I'll tell you what, just before we got to the 1400s, I said Ben Friend had taken the quickest of the two-wheel drive crews. It's true when it comes to the BTRDA, but overall, Robert Proudlock did the business with his 7 minutes and 2 seconds. Just a second faster than Ben Friend through this second stage of the day. That's a fantastic time from Mr. Proudlock Jr. He'd be pleased with that. Time's just starting to come through from the... oh no, not yet. Thought we were starting to get time through from the third stage of the day, but not quite yet. There's Conor O'Brien with reigning and double, well, triple actually in his case. Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally champion co-driver alongside Jack Morton in the Fiesta Rally 2, because Jack took one of his titles prior to jumping in with Callum Black, of course. Up next, Philke Johnson, Anton Ingvarsson in the Evo 9, the second of our Icelandic crews out here fighting on the Scottish borders this weekend. Had a DNF with a big accident on stage 4 on last year's Brick and Steel Border Counties Rally, so expect to see a little bit of caution, I should imagine, particularly with this Hindley stage running in the opposite direction to what we've known it in the past, and it was fast enough going uphill with a favourable camber, coming downhill with the commitment you need to keep it on the road and keep your speed up. Is quite the challenge through this 7 miles, just short of 7 mile stage. This stage run again for stage 4 at 12:30 after a repeat of the first stage, the Warshup stage, which is up next for stage 3, and we'll be live with you just before 12:30. You joined us for your breakfast, you may as well join us for your lunch as well, for some rally action here in the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series. Hello to Phil Bramwell, watching the sunshine, enjoying watching in the sunshine. Paul Bonus, Thomas Pidden, the man behind Rally Nuts there. Paul jumping into the Fiesta R5, which incidentally we saw for the first time on the Border Counties Rally in 2024. Part of the Rally Nuts team alongside Ed James in the Micra kit car. Another man who, with his name above the door for many years on the Rally Nuts stages, which is now, of course, the Severn Valley Rally, has put an awful lot back into the sport. Paul took a top 10 in B14 on his debut in the R5 Fiesta, switching from the Subaru, of course, before that, the B13, or now Class B Subaru. I'll stop saying old money classes sooner or later, once we're all used to them, I promise. Yeah, Phil's watching the under-8s crickets team in Elworth play, cheering Molly on for her first game. So Ollie and Molly both playing cricket, following their dad's footsteps. Fantastic. Hope you have a great day, guys. Hello to Neil Henderson. Mike Henderson as well, joining us on the live stream. There's Adam Durston-Hillier, comes here 6th in Class B with Chris Davies alongside in that N14 Impreza. He's actually, what is he equal? Just check my notes. I think he's equal with John Bannister, isn't he? Only 1 point on the board after the Malcolm Wilson rally. Needs some points here at round 2. Hello to Danula Randall, Keandro van der Bloeg as well. Jeff Crennel watching from a lovely sunny Isle of Man with a brew. Darren Dixon, was that the original Ethel just then? It is, yeah. He's got it back as of the Malcolm Wilson rally. There was a bit of chatter about that last time out. That was Brian Kemp. Richard Collier. Don't forget, if you are commenting on our live coverage this morning, hello to Clive Howell as well, my Bayesian friend and the man who gave me such a great introduction to Rally Barbados last year. I'm hoping to see him again in a couple of weeks' time. Ian Ring, Paul Vasey. I do like the livery on that Evo 6. I love the noise of the anti-lag on the Evo 6. And that's Elwyn Pritchard. Don't forget, if you are commenting on any of our live streams, be that at rallyspecialstage.tv, on YouTube, on Facebook, or at Motorsport UK TV, indeed, or any of the championship pages, you are in the draw to win one of the Rallying is Life Money Can't Buy Lombard RSC themed rally hats. The dust very much in our direction now. You can probably see, I think you can see on the coverage, can't you, how much it's hanging in the air. The wind has dropped, which is not the result we were looking for from this second stage of the day, that is for sure. Jock Dean, hello to you. Initially, I thought there was some damage to the roof of that Impreza. I think it's just the sunstrip flapping around. Gavin Spencer, Peter Spencer alongside, came 11th in the B13 class on last year's Border Counties Rally. So Matthew Hurst leads the way then, 11 seconds ahead of reigning champion Elliot Payne, and that is the way the championship standings look coming into this second round as well. A great start to the Border Counties this season by Matthew Hurst in that Skoda Fabia. Daniel Sigardison not far behind them. David Henson leads the Historic Cup and the Silver Star, and it's Dylan Fowler-Bishop showing a clean pair of heels after a tricky first stage for our double Bronze Star champions, Nigel and Kaz Jenkins, after the opening two stages of today's rally. We will be back with you at 12:30 for more action from the Border Counties Rally Round 2 of the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series. Enjoy the rest of your morning, and we'll be back with you in less than 2 hours' time for more live rally coverage here from Special Stage.